flat, smooth and quiet. Emptiness flowed through my hands, and haunting voices cried as I talked the talk of madness. I changed the words to make the wrong seem right. Oh, sands keep falling. Oh, the master's calling. Oh, your lamps are running dry. Oh, sands keep falling.
Hello, I'm Cliff Garner, and this is Flint Radio. And tonight our guest is Mark Andrew Job. He is a Christian filmmaker and really all-around film person. And he's going to talk about his latest projects and particularly his project on a GoFundMe that he is trying to do. And I think you'll find this as interesting as I have. And let's go to my interview with Mark now. Hello, and welcome to American Amnesia. I am Cliff Garner, your host, and today I have a special guest on, my friend Mark Job. And Mark is a Christian artist, and he has some really interesting things to talk about here. So, Mark, could you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, well, thank you for having me today, Cliff. It's a real honor to be here. My full name is Mark Andrew Job, and yes, Job as in the book of Job, that's my name. And I think my parents wanted to be sure. They gave me a total Christian name with Mark and Andrew and Job from the Old Testament. And I am originally from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. I was born and raised in the greater Montreal area, and I first started making movies as a young teenager, 13 years old. It was, a hobby that I had where my father would lend me his Nikon 8mm movie camera, and I would start filming anything I could point the camera at, the mailman delivering the mail, my feet walking down the street to catch the bus to go to school. I would film my teacher secretly through a hole in my desk. I was quite the avid amateur filmmaker from the time I was about 13 to the time I was about 15. And in the process of that time, we're talking the late 1970s, 77, 78, 79, and 80. Those were the years when Eastman Kodak had started to update the regular 8mm amateur film format to what they called Super 8, which had a 50% larger frame, and then Super 8 sound, which was a really big deal for me because that effectively, you were able to get a 50-foot cartridge of 8mm film with a magnetic stripe along the edges on both sides. And you could put that in a camera with a recording head, and you could actually shoot sound. So I went from making very basic pure cinema films to actually being able to have my friends as actors saying lines and, Super 8 sound. We could shoot sound. And that was a really big deal when that came in. And of course, there were projectors that came out that allowed you to add sound after you had the film shot and developed at a lab, and you could bring it back and put it on your Super 8 sound projector. And there were I remember these Japanese companies like Sankyo and Elmo, ELMO, that actually had, they used the balance stripe. There was a main stripe on one side of the film, and along the perforation side was a thinner magnetic stripe, and the Japanese started making projectors that would record on both channels. So now you could have Super 8 stereo sound Kodachrome 40 movies. And things got actually quite sophisticated because I can remember that just before home video came onto the market, The cameras were shooting sound on these little magnetic stripes on these 50-foot rolls of film, and the projectors were capable of playing back and adding stereo sound to that. So you could actually mix a soundtrack, shoot a film with actors saying lines, and that's when I got into writing screenplays, writing little scripts, because I found that it made for better movies. And so, you could have lines, and then you could add music after for effect. And the next piece of equipment I seem to remember getting was an editor, a Super 8 sound editor that would allow me to play the film back and forth. And I had a splicer that would allow me to cut the film and cut out the bad parts and keep the good parts, and then add sound and mix. So things got really sophisticated. And then, of course, home video hit about 1981. And
that's what I think most people really know about was the video. I know that's really where I kind of came in with anything like that. But my uncle was like you. He was into film, and I do remember all that, but I didn't really experience that. So that's really cool.
Yeah, and that was the way it was. And basically the things that you could do with home video, you could do with Super 8 sound. And, home video offered you mono and stereo sound, and so did Super 8 sound. Super 8 Kodachrome, properly exposed and focused carefully and framed, actually looked better than the first video format cameras that came in. And they were very expensive when they first came in. I remember the VHS player recorders. They were they called them VCRs, but they were big. They were like TV VTRs. They were
funky.
Big.
Yeah.
And they were top loading. They had a drawer that, that came up out of the machine, and you put your VHS tape, and then you put the tape down into the machine. The machine would open the tape inside and pull the tape out of the cassette and wrap it around 15 different spindles and capstans and guides and heads and it was kind of cool because it was instant.
Yeah.
I think that was the biggest thing about home video, is it provided a form of instant playback, which of course you couldn't have with film because it had to be processed before you could see what you had. The professionals had live video taps on their cameras, like in the studios that were shooting 16 and 35. But us Super 8 guys, we didn't have that. But we did have really good quality. Like Kodachrome was towards the end of Super 8, they had 200-foot magazines as well as 50-foot magazines, and 200 feet of Super 8 film. Going at 24 frames per second sound speed, which is the standard in the film industry, that gave you over 10 minutes. So you imagine if you're shooting dialogue over 10 minutes, you could shoot some pretty meaningful stuff. And I remember doing that, and it just progressed. And I went from Super 8 sound to video, and then to 16 millimeter, then Super 16. Then I started shooting 35 millimeter motion picture film and with cameras. And of course the quality is the beautiful quality. And then I even shot some 65 millimeter, which was anything shot in that format, the 65 millimeter wide film format. It's actually 70 millimeter in the projectors. Nothing has equaled that yet. The current digital technology at 8K, the new red 8K helium production camera that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 was shot with, that comes very close, but it still doesn't touch the Super Panavision 70, Ultra Panavision 70, Todd AO 70 millimeter motion picture format. That still looks better than anything I've ever seen or used in the industry. But I am very impressed with where we're at with the digital technology today. We're in the process of actually upgrading our production equipment. We have been using a broadcast HD camera. We've been using a Canon XL H1, which uses the HDV format but it's a shoulder camera with all the professional connections that you need for audio and video. But that technology is more than 10 years old now. And so, our camera has served us well, and we've shot a lot of, professional independent productions on it. But, we need to upgrade to the modern, DSLR technology, which for folks who aren't familiar with that term, DSLR stands for digital single lens reflex camera, like you see with, hanging around news photographers' necks. But now these cameras have the capability of shooting 4K digital cinema video. That's, excuse me, that's 4,096 pixels by 2,048 pixels, which is the standard in digital cinema projection. Like if you go into the cinema today, that's what you're looking at on the big screen.
Now, that's high definition, right?
Yes, it's actually more than high definition. It's ultra high definition. It's actually about 4 times the definition of standard HD TV that you would see on your flat screen television at home. You watch a Blu-ray, or you watch a program off DVD. DVD will give you 480 lines. Broadcast HD will give you 1920 by 1080. And some cable systems only give you 720 by 1280. But digital cinema currently is projected in 4K, which is 4,096 times 2,048. So that's roughly 4 times the standard broadcast standard of HD, which is considered 1K,
So it's really high. Kind of a.
You have pixels. Yes, you have pixels you can throw away. It's a very interesting format, the new 4K, and it's especially good for us filmmakers and independent producers who have to make material for standard broadcast on TV or Netflix today, because it allows you to reframe your image. If you have a microphone in a shot, or you need to zoom in or crop, you can now do that, and you have absolutely no loss in quality. You can actually shoot an interview with one camera, and you can make it look like it was shot with 2 cameras, and you can cut back and forth between close up and wide angle. As long as you shoot a wide angle, then you can later in post-production, you can go in and you can zoom in and you can pan. And you can do all kinds of effects because you have all these extra pixels that you can throw away.
Okay, so what you're saying is that it's shooting at such a wide angle that it actually looks like you might be using more than one camera at a time.
Yeah, it's because you can literally have a scene playing, and suddenly you cut to a close-up, and then you cut back, or you cut to suddenly you're slowly zooming in. Because you can do that because you're at 4,096 in wide angle, but when you zoom into HD, which is 1920 by 1080, for example, and all the audience sees is you cutting from a wide angle to a close up, or from a wide angle suddenly you're zooming in, and there's no loss of quality, so they can't tell it wasn't shot from 2 or 3 different cameras, but yet you're only using one camera, so the footprint of what you're doing is much smaller. Yet the quality is much higher and more flexible. And this is kind of the direction we're going with 4K. And now 8K with the new helium red camera, which is actually shooting 8,072 by 4,096. It's a tremendous, it's a double again of what you had. So that would be like 8 times what the current HD quality is.
Now correct me if I'm wrong. So what you're saying is you can shoot from one angle. Actually, you're shooting with a wide range, right, or something like that. And you're coming in, and you can kind of change the angle you're seeing this perspective from. Am I correct?
Yes, you have one camera shooting an interview, but because you can zoom in and crop and pan and tilt because you have all this extra pixels to work with, it looks like you're literally cutting from one camera to another camera, which has a different lens on it. And it's amazing that you could do that with one camera. Camera.
That is amazing.
And so instead of having to come into a room to interview somebody with 2 or 3 cameras and all this extra equipment that goes with it, you just come in with a small DSLR on maybe a shoulder rig or on a small tripod, and you may do sound right on the camera, or you can do what we call double system sound, where you have a digital recorder that is synced to the time code that your DSLR is recording with the video. And, you have the best of both worlds, independent video and audio. So it allows them to be edited and recorded separately. And that's the way the industry has always recorded sound. They always have recorded sound separately from the film. They've always used a separate recorder to do that.
Right. Well, that's amazing. I find it that kind of mind-boggling that you could get that wide of a picture of it, that you can really just kind of move around within that width and find different places where you want to come from, and it looks like you've got different cameras. That's just really mind-boggling, really. I just truly mind-boggling. What you were saying about the film earlier, though, the older film was actually of a higher quality than what they're doing now?
Correct. Actually, the 5-perf 70 millimeter motion picture format is actually the highest quality image acquisition, moving image acquisition format ever invented. Okay. Ever developed for commercial professional film production, and nothing digital has actually superseded it yet. Now, digital technology is always moving forward, but film and digital technology have fundamentally different ways of adding color. I
was thinking that might be where the angle of that was coming from. That the color is better then.
Well, it's actually that when you talk about digital image acquisition, the color process is additive. When you're talking about motion picture film production, the color process, the method by which the color is added to the image, is a subtractive process. In other words, in video, the more color that you add to the scene, the brighter the image gets. In film, the more color you add to the scene, the darker the image gets. Okay. The higher the contrast becomes. And so the two different formats, that's one of the reasons why film looks different than video.
Right.
It's one of the fundamental reasons, is because the method of which the image and the color matrix is created is kind of on an opposite curve. And that's why it's been the challenge of a lot of the digital camera technology to mimic the color and density curve that you get with film, shooting emulsion-based image acquisition. And that's a big deal. And this is where, the actual technology is starting to catch up now, where, camera makers such as Red Cinema, and Canon, professional cameras, and Panasonic are starting to produce cameras, and also, of course, Aeroflex, the famous motion picture film camera maker, has also made the Arri Alexa. And this is a camera that acquires the image digitally, but it has a gamma, a contrast and color curve very similar to the way film is. And so that technology is catching up with, in terms of, film quality. Still, digital is kind of like a hybrid. It's a very painterly format. There's a whole new kind of filmmaking that is actually come into existence in Hollywood that really didn't exist 15, 20 years ago. And that's this new digital painterly format. It's a very painterly format where you could be making a movie where you have no mise en scene. Mise en scene means that you have a set, you have actors playing off each other, and you have a director that's directing the action and the movement that happens in that space. Well, now you have an empty room that's all green, and you have an actor standing in the room. The actor is emoting to stuff on little green sticks, little pictures of heads that are taped to green sticks. And they're being moved around so that the eye line, he's looking the right way and he's making the right actions. But all the rest of the scene doesn't exist. It's painted in post-production. So you have no mise en scene anymore. It's kind of this new digital hybrid filmmaking. And it is a style of filmmaking, but it's very different than classical cinema storytelling.
Right. Now, I've actually looked into a little bit on like you talk about the blue screen and the green screen, and that's where that if you're wearing green and you've got the green screen going, you don't see your shirt. Yeah, it's like your hands and head are there and kind of floating around.
Yeah.
And so that's what you're talking about here, isn't it?
A form of that.
Using something of that sort. Oh, okay. Well, I was looking into it because I've been wanting to do video kind of production, and I started seeing that, and it's like, well, that's crazy. And then I thought about it. It's like, well, wait a minute. I saw that when I went to the TV studio and saw them using the video equipment when they were doing like the weather report. Because they don't actually have the map behind them. The map is up on a monitor where they're pointing at.
Yeah.
And
same thing.
Yeah. Okay. So I get it. Well, that's really wild.
Yeah, and it's really a different kind of effect because here there's artistic and technical choices that are being made in situations like that. Whereas a director, my concern is, do you get the same quality and kind of performance when you have an actor emoting to nothing as you get when you have a good actor playing off another good actor? Right. Or a good actor playing against a better actor, that usually brings the performance up. And when you have a real set and you have real movement with real actors, to me that's more of a natural, creative flow in a classical cinema storytelling, story directing style. Whereas if you're a director trying to direct performance, you're trying to get a performance out of an actor to hit keys in an empty green room where there's nobody else but a camera, the operator, and the director and the actor, and maybe the set.
Well, that would affect the format, wouldn't it?
Well, I don't know. I think that it's the end result, obviously, is what counts. But the thing is, the end result is not being now under the control of the director, or is it? I mean, it's now being finished in Tokyo, and a 20-year-old kid sitting at a workstation in a room full of 200 other people sitting at workstations is actually more responsible for the final look and flow of the scene than possibly the director. So you get a great director like Martin Scorsese or John Frankenheimer or somebody like Francis Ford Coppola. Will they know what to do? Like they're used to being on sets, on locations with actors playing against each other on real sets and that, and they've, made their career. I imagine it would be interesting to see somebody like Steven Spielberg or well, perhaps not so much Steven Spielberg, but maybe Martin Scorsese or Francis Ford Coppola making one of these kind of huge studio digital hybrid visual effects movies. Like, you make a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy, and all of it's computer generated, just about.
Right. Well, that's because of the nature of the characters, isn't it?
And nature of the story, the characters.
Right. As a basically an English major and a literature expert and all this kind of thing, one of the things that we are taught outside of things like logic and stuff is that form equals content. So whatever format that you're using is going to give you given a direct effect on what you're going to have is what you're going to see. And if you change the form, then you change the content of what's going to be in it. So what you've done there is that you've actually taken, you've got an actor that's got to emote without the benefit of having the visual imagery of the scene in his mind while he's doing it. And you're also dealing with a director that doesn't have his vision imposed upon on the scene. Or for that matter, the cameraman doesn't have even the actual final product in front of him. He doesn't know what he's doing. Or she, not to gender it. But so in other words, what you're saying is that the actual creative image is done elsewhere by some kid sitting in a booth, tinkering around with it after the fact.
Yes. And so if you're a director, how much of the scene have you directed? You're no longer directing the total scene, if you will, because how can you direct something that's not there?
Exactly. And that's so strange to think about.
Yeah, it really kind of, it's occurred to me that with the new technology, it really is a giant leap forward, not just in technology, but in the whole artistic, philosophical, conceptual storytelling creation of what you're doing in cinema.
Right, I can see where that would happen.
Yeah, because I'm more interested personally in using as much of the I see the new digital technology as another tool in the box. I prefer to shoot on motion picture film, but I do like the convenience and the expediency offered by the new digital technology. I do think the RED cameras, their 4K cameras, their 6K cameras, and their new 8K cameras produce sensational images. They're just wonderful, wonderful pieces of equipment. And the new Canon equipment, and that's why we're in the process now. We have a GoFundMe program, and we'll put up a link on your website so the listeners can go and check it out. And we're trying to raise $15,000 to upgrade our system, our film production camera, to a Canon 1DC, C for the EOS Cinema series of cameras, which is if you will, imagine a digital single lens reflex that's designed to shoot 4K cinema and uses a special sensor that is capable of what we call the APS-C cinema 4K cinema format, which is 4096 by 2048. This is wonderful, and this is where we think we need to go and what we're doing. And anybody who's interested in helping us get there, we really encourage you to come to the crowdfunding site, and there are examples of my work there, and there's an explanation with some pictures in that, and you can look at if you look through the updates in that shows you, and there's a link to my business website. We'll also put up my business website, ICT Productions, and we'll also put up another website called God's A-List, which is a service, a business, and a ministry that is being conducted by my partner, Catherine DeFries, down in Seattle, Washington. And Catherine is my new business partner, and she has come along to partner with me in a new endeavor that we are putting together, which is an actual whole new film production studio called United Christian Artists. And that will be based out of the Seattle, Washington, area. And I'm a Canadian, as I'd mentioned, originally from Montreal, and eventually I will probably be immigrating, Lord willing, to the United States. We'll see how that process goes. We will be continuing to offer services from a prophetic Christian perspective. We are Christians, and we believe in the movement of the kingdom of God, and we believe in making films that build people up, that also communicate the witness and the integrity of the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we kind of see ourselves as like the Baroque painters who were men of faith who would use the paintbrush to spread the word of God, and we use a motion picture camera, and we use computer-based multimedia and web streaming video and digital cinema and commercial feature film production. We are actually involved. I write screenplays, and Catherine, who acts as my agent, is involved in marketing those screenplays to various studios, and secular and Christian. We work with both. We work with Christian ministries, and we're very interested in, kind of, really influencing Hollywood for the gospel. We're very, very excited with the fact that cinema is like one of the biggest, sticks you can carry, one of the biggest, if you will, wands of influence that there is in modern pop culture. And everybody loves the movies. I think there's at least one film a person has seen in their life that they liked. And so cinema is really an area of influence, of great cultural influence around the world. And it's an important arena for Christians to be in as well. For those of us who are called to this area, and for those who are interested in supporting us who are called to this area, we do encourage you to help us out and come and check out our website. And we'll put the links to that up as well.
We'll have the links below on YouTube, and also with the Like Flint program, we'll have the links available there also.
Yeah, excellent. And so we're very involved in that, and we're really excited. There are opportunities right now that we can't quite talk about because they're still in development, but there's some really big doors that have opened for United Christian Artists and screenplay development in recent weeks. And if things continue, we ask people to pray for us because some wonderful things are happening, and if they continue to be happening the way they are, you're going to see some significant work coming out in the area of commercial feature filmmaking in Hollywood, but for Christ. I'm thinking. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, one of the things that you're doing is working also with churches, right?
Well, yeah, we work with a variety of different people. We're facilitators. We provide the services of commercial film production, casting. We talent scout for other producers. We offer that service. We also actually offer beginner and intermediate and advanced film production courses, workshops.
Right. That's what I was...
people can take, Christian or non-Christian can take, that will educate them and show them how to make pictures. For example, sometimes a church or a Christian or a producer will approach us and say, look, we have this script here, and we would like to develop this into a commercial feature film. And depending on the project, we can either make the picture for them, or sometimes my services will be rented out I will be hired out to direct other people's movies and short stories and films.
Right.
For
you
them.
work with them. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, depending, because they may need the services of a director, and they may need the services of an organization that can actually design and cast their production and get it put on film for them. And that's where God's A-List and ICT Productions and United Christian Artists, that's where we come in, because we are also developing projects for other people, and we're developing projects for ourselves. There are some screenplays that I write that we are going to make ourselves as our own studio, United Christian Artists, at the Hollywood level. And there's other scripts that I write that are actually being marketed to other producers, Christian and secular.
And you're also providing a service where you doing a certain amount of networking, I suppose, right?
Yes, actually, networking is really what it's all about. It's about letting people know where we are and letting us know where they're at. And through networking and coming alongside and partnering with different people, we can get and facilitate even large-scale productions. Your
partner, Catherine, is now. What does she do exactly?
Well, Catherine DeFries is a serious Christian woman. She is a prophetically led, charismatic Christian lady. She is, I call her a business genius. Catherine actually acts as my agent and as my producer. And she is a money person and she has a real pragmatic, disciplined business mind, which is very, very complimentary for what I do. It actually frees me up so that I can concentrate on the creative and technical aspect of film production. That is developing and writing screenplays and directing pictures and working with actors, on the set and editing, putting pictures together, for myself and for other people. And she's a really good balance. She's a really good, complement, to my work. And together, we also have a third person who works as an assistant and a facilitator for us. And that's Mike Worrell. And Michael and Catherine have been working together for more than 10 years. And, they've worked both in ministry and in business and in other areas. And, Mike brings a lot of technical computer multimedia know-how, as well to the table. And together with my filmmaking and script writing and film editing and, directing, I bring that to the table, and Catherine brings the business perspective and the agent and marketing perspective. Okay. And so together we can really work as a great team.
Now does Mike do editing with you?
No, Mike actually does a lot of works of service. He helps us in handling documents. He helps to convert screenplays into various formats. He helps coordinate things that need to be sent out and received, and helps us basically with the things that we don't have enough time to do. He's kind of our third complimentary person.
Right. He fills the gaps.
Yeah, he fills a lot of gaps. Actually, this past weekend, let me tell you, we had a script submissal, and if it wasn't for Michael, I don't think we would have been able to get the document to the producer who needed to see it. And, Michael is very gifted in the areas of computers and so he's a very good help for us, very good facilitator. And, we couldn't do a lot of stuff without Mike. And, again, Catherine and I were kind of joined at the hip. And, so we work like a tag team very much.
Okay. Well, I can see where that would come in, because if she's doing the producing and also doing she's your agent, and she's also taking care of other practical aspects, that you would actually probably have to go to her quite a bit, wouldn't you?
Yes, actually, on a daily basis, we are on the phone with each other. We are coordinating, and sometimes she needs me also for other things because she has several things in development that I work on. For example, teaching workshops on film production and actually possibly coordinating with other actors and doing talent scouting. Because I have an eye for talent as a director, I can spot it and help develop it and help and assist with casting. So I actually do a lot of work for Catherine as well in that capacity.
Right. So yeah, the two of you work together really well, and yeah, your creativity is the thing that she knows how to channel. So that would be a good combination. And then you have the other guy that fills in all the gaps, and that's fantastic.
That's what you need, and that is quite correct. That's exactly what she does. She helps keep me on course when I'm this creative moon man, and I'm floating up to Mount Sinai with my creative ideas. She can often rein me in and focus that creativity and complement that creativity in the way that it needs to be handled to do the job. So she's been an enormous help. Actually, I don't know what I'd do without her, actually. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm looking for in a wife, is somebody that's practical. So, I need that. Just somebody with a little more rooted than I am to the earth.
Well, definitely that helps. I mean, I'm this single artist, and well, so is she for that matter. So, but it's still, we work as a team, it works, and
it sounds great. Because, that symbiosis, that whole dynamic, because, it's good to see your vision become reality, and it takes a certain amount of realistic, grounding, I suppose, that really helps an artistic person to get there.
Yes, she definitely helps me in that area because, I'm like a hot air balloon floating up in the sky, and she grabs me and pulls me back down and says, "Okay, Mark, okay, now we're talking about this. We're going to do this right now." Right. And I'm going off on into other rabbit holes, and I'm jumping down this rabbit hole, and I'm jumping down that rabbit hole. And she says, "Well, no, we need to focus on this right now. This is what we're doing." She says, "Oh yeah, right. Okay. So this is what we need." And, and I'm able to come in with the technical support. And I have 30 plus years of experience of working in the film industry. I started working in the film industry in Montreal when I was 15. At 19, I won the National Film Board of Canada Montreal Movie Makers Award, for a picture I had done, a Super 8 film called Away in a Garden of Fantasy, which actually wasn't my most favorite picture, but it was the one that won the award. It was the one that everybody loved, and it was the one that began to launch my career, such as it was as an amateur filmmaker, as a teenager, that, something that started essentially as a childhood hobby actually progressed into a profession, into a job. And I started working when I was 15 on movie sets. I basically started talking my way onto movie sets and talking my way into jobs as a teenager. And I started to acquire valuable knowledge by actually doing. And I'm kind of a nonverbal learner anyway. So, knowledge by doing is very, very valuable, a valuable way to learn. And I started learning by hands-on. I'm a trained motion picture projectionist in 35 and 70 millimeter. I can put on the Late Show for you. Although today we don't use film, so I think anybody could flip a switch or click a mouse. But I know how to do that. I'm also trained as a director of photography. I'm also trained as a Kodak Canada laboratory technician in the processing of Super 8 and 16 millimeter motion picture film. I worked in a lab in Montreal for a while. So I got that training, threading optical printers in the dark with unexposed 16 millimeter emulsion, We used to specialize in blowing up Super 8 to 16 and even to 35 if they wanted it. And I worked at a graphic studio in Toronto called Color Studio Laboratory in Etobicoke. And we used to print the big posters that used to be at the Canadian National Exhibition in Toronto. We used to print them in sections in a room with a giant printer that looked like a movie projector that would project the negative onto giant sheets of unexposed, unprocessed print paper, which we would feed into giant machines that would process the paper, like with vats of chemicals that were in a machine. Uh-huh. And then we used to laminate those giant sections onto pieces of wood, plywood for backing that were numbered. And, we'd print a 90-foot, mural image, okay, for the CD that would go up. So I have that training as well. And in both, technical film, and also I'm a computer integration technologist and multimedia expert. And I'm a trained Avid Media Composer editor.
Okay.
Avid Media Composer is the motion picture and television editing application of choice. Over 90% of everything that you see in television and in the cinema is edited and put together on Avid Media Composer. Okay. And so you have to learn that application when you work as an editor in the film industry. So being a screenwriter and being a editor are the two areas, they're the two legs that a good movie stands on. A good script and good editing is what Hitchcock used to call pure cinema. Editing is not really about cutting. That sounds like vivisection. It's not about, it's not about eviscerating, a movie. What it is it's the artful assembly of a series of shots to create an idea or an emotion in the mind of the viewer. That's what Alfred Hitchcock, the famous film director, called pure cinema. And Hollywood editing is what we call continuity editing, and continuity editing is what we call invisible editing. It's editing that doesn't draw attention to itself. Right. It's editing that facilitates the telling of a story in as smooth a flow as possible for the viewer.
Well, that's the thing about editing and writing also. Because when you're talking about editors for books, Stephen King hates it because he's losing all these words. The point isn't the words that he lost. The fact is that maybe he lost his focus and that he needed to actually keep it there, because it's the perception of the reader that is being manipulated by a book. And you're doing this with a visual medium and an audio medium when you're talking about a movie. So you have other things that are coming into play, but you still are affecting the person's perception. And that's really the key.
Yes.
What does it do with their imagination? And that's the key.
Yes. Well, the director will often take a screenplay and he will do a rewrite before he shoots, but it is not a creative rewrite. It is not a rewrite that changes the ideas or the concepts or even necessarily the dialogue that is in the script. What it is it's taking the book, or if it's in the case of an adaptation, it's an adaptive screenplay, and it's putting that book into a form that allows that story to best be told cinematically.
Exactly. You're shaping it is what you're doing.
Yes, you're trying to fit that novel, which is 9 hours long, into a form that will allow the same story to be told that's really a 9-hour movie into a movie that's 90 minutes.
Exactly.
Or 2 hours max.
and that way that it's digestible. And yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
It's not necessarily improving it, but it's improving it within the confines of the medium.
Yes, exactly. And that's part of my job as a director. My job is not, as a director, is not so much to shout orders at a large assembled team of technicians and actors to facilitate a shot. It's really to guide and make sure that everybody on the team is making the same movie, and that I'm responsible for the artistic vision. I have a vision for what this movie is going to be and how this story is going to be presented. And I impose and guide that vision onto the actors and onto their interpretation. I often will never even stop an actor if I think they're doing a really good job. There's very little directing to do. It's, roll camera, action, cut.
Right.
I mean,
yeah, you're observing it, and you're allowing it to unfold after setting it up. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, that's the thing. Anything that's done well usually is done with the minimum of effort.
Or in some cases, it is the maximum of effort. But what I try to do as a director is I'm a collaborator with the other artists and technicians that are on the set, and I very much try to get out of the way of my movie. I try to facilitate and let them do. And let them be all that they can be, because if I do that, then as long as we're all in the understanding that we're making the movie, we're going in the direction that we need to be going, things usually turn out quite well. The places that you normally wreck a movie is in a bad script and in editing. They're the two areas that movies often kind of can be ruined. Mostly with a bad script.
Well, that would be hard to fix anyway.
It is hard to fix. There are directors who will take a script that's so bad, and they will essentially rewrite the script. They will rewrite the script as they shoot to try to facilitate the telling of that story in the most cinematic way. And sometimes that works very well. A good example of a movie that had no script, really, or a very poor script, was Ben-Hur, the 1959 remake of Ben-Hur. Yeah, that actually, the script from the silent movie version that Cecil B. DeMille had done was not a shooting script for a sound picture.
Well, that kind of format was totally different too. So there were difficulties in changing it.
And of course, that was a big epic that was shot in what's called MGM Camera 65, which is that became Ultra Panavision 70. Like the Hateful Eight was shot in the same format. The MGM Camera 65. That's 65 millimeter motion picture film, 5 perforation frame holes high. It's 2.072 inches wide by just under an inch. It's 0.907 inches high. It's like a business card size frame. It's a big frame.
Right.
And of course, the more negative that you have behind the glass, the better your picture gets and the better your picture looks. And of course, it used anamorphic compression, and that is where the horizontal image is squeezed on the sides, east and west, to fit into the frame. It's not squeezed north and south or above or below, but it's just east and west. And then during projection, that's unsqueezed. And so, actually, Ben-Hur was shot in Ultra Panavision MGM Camera 65. That's 2.76 to 1 aspect ratio. That's very close to a 3 to 1 aspect ratio. So that's an extremely wide frame. So if you can imagine the chariot race where you've got that exciting where you've got Charlton Heston racing, the Irish actor that played, Masala in Ben-Hur.
Okay.
I forget his name now. Sorry, it escapes me. But, they're racing, and to see that in that format. So when all those horses come around the corner, they're all in the frame. They're fitting in the frame. There's no cuts to close-ups.
Right.
To get them all in, they're in there. So, and that's coming towards the camera, and you're getting the whole thing. You're seeing it just like you were if you were standing there with your own human pair of eyes. And what that does is it creates, it heightens the audience's participation effect of watching the picture.
Okay.
And this is one of the things that 70 millimeter filmmaking can do for an audience. It's a very, very large proscenium arch. And when you present a movie in a big show format in that manner, what it does is it heightens the audience's participation effect, their involvement. They feel like they're in the movie more because it's so engrossing. It's engrossing, and it's bigger, Well,
those are the movies that you actually go to the theater to see. Is the ones that have that big feel and that you were there kind of thing. Yeah, the epic kind of story, where you have the cast of thousands even. And
exactly.
Because that's what you want to do with those. Yeah.
You can't get that at home, right? Well, now you have home cinema and big screen TVs that start to approach that kind of effect, but obviously nothing equals the ultra high and wide Ultra Panavision 70 millimeter screen when you're sitting in a cinema in the dark with an audience and you're looking at something that is way bigger than you are. It's presented. It's the whole aspect of spectacle, and this is an aspect of filmmaking that in recent years I think has kind of been lost a bit. And there's been some filmmakers who are very aware of what the large format cinematography can bring to a commercial movie for audiences, and they are actually starting to shoot more and more pictures in the large 65 millimeter motion picture format now. I can think of Dunkirk, the movie that's coming out, the new film by the director that did the Batman series. His new World War II epic, Dunkirk, that's being shot in 70 millimeter. And so is there's another big picture that's coming up very soon that's shot in 70 millimeter as well. I know that what's his name there that did The Hateful Eight, Quentin Tarantino, says that he would prefer to shoot all of his pictures in this format from now on.
Oh, okay. Huh. Well, that's interesting because he's kind of one of those cutting edge people.
Yeah, well, there are some cutting edge cinematographers that are out there, like Ralph Richardson and some of these other Hollywood ASC cinematographers, and they will tell you they prefer to shoot, if they could shoot 70 millimeter film, they would prefer to shoot nothing but, because of the image that you can capture. It's a very old, very fundamental format, but it's remarkably effective. It's a remarkably effective presentation.
And the color is wonderful.
Well, there's a reason for that too. Eastman Kodak puts the color layers on the emulsion in 65 millimeter thicker than they can put it on 35 millimeter emulsion. And what that does is that not only it gives you 4.22 times the normal resolution of 35 millimeter film, but it gives you a gamma, a color intensity, and a color depth that you don't get in 16 and 35 millimeter filmmaking, because the actual film is thicker. It's 1.5 mil thickness, whereas I believe 35 millimeter negative is 0.75 mils
About
thick.
double.
It's about half as thick as the 70 millimeter emulsion, and there's more silver halide that's laid out that Eastman puts on these larger sheets of film, and so you do get this tremendous bump in image quality, image resolution, color fidelity, contrast. You get much more information in the shadows of the image. The dark parts of the image, there's much more you can actually see into. And that, of course, gives the film an effect on the viewer that heightens their participation effect. It's almost like a subconscious thing. It allows them to be more drawn into the image because the image gives them much more information, gives their brain much more information to process. So the big screen and the big resolution and the big color depth and the big contrast ratio goes a long way to giving the viewer an experience that they can't get on the internet. They can't get it on their phone. They can't get it at home.
Okay. Yeah. So it's completely what it is as opposed to the other alternatives then.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go back to the please or what is that, the crowdsourcing site. That's called what again? FundMe?
GoFundMe.com.
Okay.
Yeah,
and,
if you...
Well, go ahead and just because there's several things about the site itself and what you're talking about sourcing through that. And the people can see what you're talking about, right?
Yes. Crowdfunding is a marvelous new invention of the Internet, courtesy of the Internet, the worldwide net, that will bring people together who can actually, for example, you get someone like us who who needs to upgrade our equipment, and we are Christians involved in cinema. Now, through the internet, through a crowdfunding program, suddenly other Christians have a way to help their brothers and sisters who are working in this area. They can help finance them and make possible things that were not possible before. For example, a filmmaker, you wanted to make a movie, you needed $1 million and a TV network, or you needed millions of dollars and a Hollywood studio to do it. Well, now you don't necessarily, need that. You have the internet for distribution, and you have access to financial resources through crowdfunding that average people normally don't have access to. Normally, filmmakers have to go into offices and pitch projects to people to get funding. And then you have a few powerful people that say, yes, we'll give you the money. We like your project. Nope, sorry. Bye. See ya. And that's it.
And people are brought together in this way.
Yeah. And so, with crowdfunding, you could have, more of a say. It empowers an independent filmmaker to be able to raise the money to make a film on their own that normally they couldn't do before unless they went to a major studio and had a mogul, come in and tell them and say, well, here's the money and now we tell you what to do.
Right.
And,
so the freedom goes away.
Yeah, the freedom goes away, and also the access can go away because, it's a very expensive paint set. And, commercial feature filmmaking is a very expensive and costly technical art form. And it's also, the problem with it is that it's an art form that's a business. And the problem the problem with the business is it's an art form. So the problem with this business is it's an art form, and the problem with this art form is it's a business. And so you have that constant push-pull dynamic in the entrepreneurship of what you're doing. So through crowdfunding, it allows you another tool, another way to raise financial resources. that otherwise would be unavailable. So if the public likes your idea and they believe in what you're doing, they can donate $1 here, $10 there, $20 there. Well, if 1 million people do that on the internet around the world, suddenly, you've got enough money that you can really start to do something.
Exactly.
So this is the power of crowdfunding. It's an enabling solution. It's an enabling way for independent filmmakers and artists to raise money for projects that otherwise would not be realized. Could not be realized.
Exactly. And they can also see what you're talking about there, because you have pictures on there? Or do you have videos?
Yes, I have links that go to examples of my work that are available online from my business website. There are updates that are constantly, I'm updating the crowdfunding program so that people can know, they can see where I'm at. Right now we're at $500. I believe we've had 5 or 6 donations now. And we're trying to get to, we're only $14,500 US away from where we need to be able to purchase the DSLR that we're trying to get, the Canon 1DC body, a couple of lenses, some related, a shoulder rig, and some related accessories and sound accessories that go with that kind of a production package. And so we are encouraging people who believe in getting the word of God out through cinema and who believe in supporting Christians who are called to working in the Hollywood cinema markets, commercial world markets. They can go to our crowdfunding site and they can make a donation. Even if it's only a small donation of a few dollars, it all adds up.
Right, exactly. And that's the idea, because it's crowd, you're talking about bringing in whoever will come. If you're called, come. Right?
Yeah.
That's the
sure.
way to see it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we're believing God for a miracle, and bit by bit we're seeing the money come in, and we're believing the Lord's going to get us there we hope by the summer. That we will be approaching our goal or hitting it.
And I hope you achieve it. And I encourage anybody that feels led to do so to contribute. And we'll have you back again to talk about it some more and talk about movies and everything else too. And but we definitely want to keep track of your progress, Mark.
Okay, well, thank you so much, Cliff, for having me on today. It's really been fun to be able to talk to you about what we're doing. We're very excited about United Christian Artists, and we're very, very excited about our work in developing screenplays and networking and working with other Christians who are interested in getting involved in the commercial cinema. We're here for you. Come and see God's A-List website. Come and see ICT Productions, and come and check out our crowdfunding project online. We'll put the links up for the folks who are listening who want to check out what we're doing. And we encourage all your prayers. We definitely need prayer, and we're believing the Lord for some really big things.
Well, this has been American Amnesia and Like Flint Radio, and I'm Cliff Garner, and thank you very much, Mark, for coming.
Well, thank you for having me, Cliff. It's been a pleasure. Me too. And we definitely want to have you back and let everybody know how you're doing. I look forward to it.
I've walked this straight and narrow in the night, and I've stumbled on the wide road in the raw daylight. Felt the poison arrows in the knife stuck in my back, and I've drank the cleansing water.